In the minus double-digit degree temperatures we've been having last week mostly, but for them to stand out there, my daughters come home 45 minutes after waiting and essentially unable to wait anymore because her fingers were starting to turn purple. I didn't even know she was out there for that duration of time. Otherwise, I could have reacted.
Well, frustrated parents in Peel say their kids are being left out in the cold, waiting sometimes up to an hour for their school buses to show up. Now, the reason is there are some major school bus driver shortages, and that's causing delays as they work to fill the holes with spare drivers. The problem is parents say that the staffing issue is putting their kids at risk.
I was in the situation last week where a child I didn't even know, I've never met before, asked me for a ride because she had no other way to get to school and didn't want to be the last one in minus 16 degree temperature waiting at the bus stop. I'd be horrified. I explicitly said to my own kids once I returned during the evening that day, I said, you know, this was a situation that happened today. Don't ever get into somebody's car that you don't know.
The group that oversees the 4 school bus service providers in Peel Region tells City News that 69 of their routes do not have a permanent driver. And while they're actively recruiting every day, they say it's low pay that's keeping people from staying on the job. And they say that's something that stems from provincial funding. So until that changes, parents and kids are left waiting for backfill drivers every day. It's an issue that's also impacting school staff.
What happens then is at the end of the day, the principal is babysitting kindergarten kids who are falling asleep. And of course, until the new year, some of them are still 3 years old, right? They're little kids. She's phoning the bus company. She's fielding calls from concerned parents. I believe it should be a powerful election issue in June. The provincial government does need to see this as a key educational issue because, I return to the point that our kids are being cheated out of the first half hour or whatever, however late their bus is in the day of their education. And government has to take that seriously.
Now, it's not just Peel schools that are dealing with this issue. Coming up, we'll tell you what other GTA school boards are also dealing with school bus driver shortages and what the Ministry of Education has to say about this issue.
He was at school till 5 o'clock.
What?
Yeah, almost 5 o'clock.
Waiting for the bus?
Yeah.
What time was he supposed to be picked up?
3:35.
An hour and a half?
Yeah.
Well, frustrated parents are sounding the alarm over school bus delays they say are leaving their kids stranded, sometimes standing out in frigid temperatures for extended periods of time. Now, it's happening before and after school, and some parents say it's putting kids in danger.
I was in the situation last week where a child I didn't even know, I've never met before, asked me for a ride because she had no other way to get to school and didn't want to be the last one in minus 16 degree temperature waiting at the bus stop. I felt awful for the little girl, and in good conscience, I couldn't leave her standing there waiting in the cold.
Parents say the delays have been happening daily since the new year, and while they're supposed to be notified if a bus is late, they're usually told too late or not at all, leaving them scrambling to make other arrangements. And the issue stems from a school bus driver shortage. In Peel, about 69 routes are not permanently staffed. Student Transportation of Peel Region says they are overwhelmed trying to backfill driverless routes, meaning updates don't always get sent out on time. And the reason they don't have enough drivers, well, they say the job just doesn't pay enough. And they say that's directly tied to provincial funding.
We would hope that the efforts of the bus operators to continue to recruit and train are successful. Our staff is doing everything we can to reduce the demand. In other words, reorganize bus routes so that we need less buses to cover the same amount of work. But the problem isn't going to go away in an extended sense anytime soon until and unless the ministry comes up with appropriate funding model that recognizes the value of school bus drivers.
In a statement, the Ministry of Education writes, we recently announced an additional $60 million over the next 2 years to directly support the recruitment and retention of school bus drivers. This increased funding is on top of the $12.6 million increase we provided to school boards at the beginning of the year for student transportation. They also point out wages are set by privately owned school bus companies. But the manager of Stop R says he believes the funding isn't enough to cover the actual costs of student transportation. He's concerned about what will happen after 2 years. Now, Peel isn't the only school board dealing with this issue. We're told other boards across the GTA also have driver shortages, including Halton, where they have 50 routes without permanent drivers. Now, Stop R tells us that they hope the pressure will be alleviated in the spring because many drivers who take extended vacations during the winter to warmer climates should be returning by then. Now, the Ministry of Education is expecting to put forward some recommendations around student transportation this fall. In Peel, Janelle Amasa, City News.